Welcome back, everybody, to the Tsukuba circuit in Japan for round number 4 of the third season of the PDC Racing League. Apologies for the short delay, a small technical issue, which we've thankfully resolved, means that we're back in time for the second race. There is still about 6 minutes left of the mid-session practice that goes on, just to give everyone time to get into the new server, and then we will go racing. No qualifying this time, straight into a completely random grid for the second race of the night. What the delay has given us a chance to do is locate our race winner, our third different race winner from the first 3 races this season in the PDC Racing League. And it's a man who really did need a race win after the disappointment of Lime Rock Park a week ago. And that is, of course, Dan Blake, who managed to win the race in pretty dramatic circumstances. Well, Dan, I'm glad to say, is joining us now in the commentary box ahead of this race. Dan, I'm sure with about 5 minutes or even about 2.5 minutes left of that race, you didn't necessarily expect to win, but you did manage to pick your way through and take the victory, and an important victory it was.
I sort of settled in at that point, really. I knew they were battling really hard in front. I thought, well, if I take 4th place, it's still decent points. It wouldn't have been a bad result, but then everything happened in front of me, and before I knew it, I was in the lead, and it was I come out of nowhere, really. But very unfortunate for Nick. He drove a really, really good race, and Nick just seems to have no luck. But I suppose at least it was one of his teammates who could come home and take the win in the end.
Now, you and Freddie had your own disagreement, let's call it, at Lime Rock Park a week ago. So I'm sure you must have had a little smile on your face when you drove through that wreckage, not just because it meant that Freddie was losing points, but obviously it's kind of nice for you to redress the situation from a week ago.
I'm not happy as such, because obviously Nick was driving really well, and you never like to see things end in contact. But obviously, yeah, things happened last week, and it's not vindicated as such. But I just feel sort of like after last week, I've come out this week and I've taken the win. And of course, as far as the championship goes, with Freddie scoring very little points as well, it's a great help as well. And such a short championship, I think a result like that's even harder to bounce back from. And my PDC Racing League record's been pretty good. Even in the last season, I had the highest overall points. I lost out on drop scores, so I feel like a little bit of a score to settle from last season as well, really. And me and Freddie race very, very close together. Sometimes we say too close, but it's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of the season pans out. And I know that Freddie's going to push me all the way, so this could be a big turning point in the championship.
Yeah, that was your 6th career victory in the PDC Racing League. You're only 1 behind Ben Leach now to tie at the top. As much as I'm sure you'd love to get that 7th victory here in this second race, I'm sure that you're also thinking championship very much now. Lime Rock Park did not go according to plan. You bagged some good points in race 1 now. So how cautious are you prepared to be in race 2 to make sure that you don't throw that all away?
It all depends where I get put in the reverse grid, doesn't it? It's a random grid, so I could be at the back of the field. I won't know my mentality until I see where I am on the grid, to be honest. If I need to make up some places, I'll try and make up some places. It's a tough one, really, because you don't really know sort of your game plan until you're about to start the race. But as always, I try and get as much points. Although last week was disappointing, the lowest I finished was 4th place. So in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't really a bad week. It could have been a lot better, but it could have been a lot worse, and I've had a good start as well tonight. So let's just see what the race brings, and then pay as you go, as you say, and just see how it goes, really, sort of on the fly.
Good stuff. Well, you're as entertaining to watch as ever, Dan. Best of luck for race number 2, which is coming up in just a few moments' time. And who knows, we might be talking to you on the podium again in about 20 minutes.
It was almost even more entertaining because I thought the last lap was a lap early and you stopped the car.
I wasn't going to bring that up. But you've admitted it now.
Yeah, so in the excitement of it all, I saw a white flag and thought that was a checkered flag. So I went over to the pit wall, and it's only my coach who said, 1 more lap to go. I thought, better keep going. So I'll be trying to be very vigilant on that this time as well.
Hey, if Nigel Mansell can do it, then I think we can forgive you for a similar mistake in the heat of the moment. Keep an eye on the time in this one, and best of luck in race 2.
That's okay. Thank you, Andy.
So Dan Blake then, as I said, that was his 6th career win. Ben Leach leads the way on 7. Those two are a country mile ahead of anybody else, actually. Freddie Hewitt and Ian Bailey are next up, 3rd and 4th, with 3 and 2 victories, respectively. in the PDC Racing League. So interesting stats starting to come through now as well, because the PDC Racing League has had a few races now. Obviously, this third season is a shorter season than we've grown accustomed to, but still, it's always interesting to look back at who's had the most wins, pole positions, podiums, etc. I said Dan Blake and Freddie Hewitt were only 5 top 5 finishes apart at the top of the tree, but Dan Blake gets his 16th top 5 finish in that race. So we are about to go into the second race then. As I said, we've got about a minute left of this practice session, a completely random grid. The drivers do not know where they're going to start the race until they get spawned onto the grid. So they get maybe 60 seconds to come up with a game plan, figure out who's around them on the grid, whether they've got any teammates, whether they've got any rivals around them, and try and figure out what they're going to do going into the race. And that is a really, really interesting way of doing things, actually. I'm a big fan of this random grid, a reversed grid, you see. You can almost kind of anticipate, if you know that somewhere between the top 5 and 10, for example, are going to get reversed, you can kind of, if you're not going to win it, you can position yourself somewhere in that group, and you know you've got a good chance of being at the front of the grid for the next race. But this is completely random, as you might have guessed, and that means it's very, very unpredictable. Well, the practice session is about to end. It does so now, and the checkered flag goes out. So turn our attention to the timing screen then, and let's see who gets drawn on pole. Freddie Hewitt was quickest in that practice session, for what it's worth, with Daniel Hunt second and Gavin Johnson in third. Sure, that won't be how the front of the grid lines up. Let's have a look then. Grid is shuffled, and Alex Hall gets the pole position with Daniel Hunt alongside him then. Kevin McGlone and Alan Toon on row 2. Ian Crosby and Ian Court, the two Ians together on row 3. Then Pete Van Gool, Dean Timms, Chris Kidman and Gavin Johnson top 10. So none of the points, big point scorers from the first race inside the top 10. Row 6, Carl Jackalette and Phil Reagan. Row 7, Sam Holman and Cesare Rizzo. Row 8, Jason Wood and Michael Seal. And then, look at this, Dan Blake, David Ward, row 9. Row 10, Roger Morton and Henry Church. Then Ben Best. And look who's at the back. Nick Veltenar and Freddie Hewitt. They should have been the top 2 in race 1, but they were the two that tangled whilst fighting for the lead, and they've got to start together at the back of the grid. You just couldn't script it. Brilliant stuff there. That's what we like to see from the reversed grid. Just waiting for Ian Crosby to get onto the grid, and then we will be ready to race. But this is, well, not really a big advantage to anyone. All of the championship contenders are out of position. It's Alex Hall and Daniel Hunt on the front row together as the revs start to rise. The lights go out. Away we go. We're racing around number 4 of the PDC Racing lead from a league from pole position. It's a good start from Alex Hall. Daniel Hunt slots into second. Keep an eye on the Specsavers car. Look, the white and turquoise car on the outside of Ian Crosby. He's got a good start, and he possibly has the pace to win this if he gets away at the front. Alex Hall runs out wide. Daniel Hunt tries to get up the inside of him as well. Daniel Hunt, remember, was quick in race 1 too. Kevin McGlone slots into 3rd place. Alan Toon is 4th. Ian Crosby 5th, and Pete Van Gool, I think, in the Momar car coming around the outside. Alex Hall gets sideways, loses the lead. Through goes Daniel Hunt. Through goes Kevin McGlone, and down to 3rd position for Alex Hall. He made a mistake at turn 1, made another mistake at the next hairpin, and that drops him now down into 3rd position. Of those further back, Carl Jackalette's into the top 10 now, so too is Phil Reagan. Freddie Hewitt's up 8 positions already into 15th, but Jason Wood, I'm afraid, is in the pit lane. Contact! Oh, right in front of Dan Blake. That nearly went wrong, and diving through as well, he's coming Freddie Hewitt. So Dan Blake and Freddie Hewitt are together again now. Blake goes up the inside of 2 cars into the final corner. That's never going to work. Gavin Johnson is the number 9, and then 31 is Sam Holman, Freddie Hewitt's teammate. Oh, contact made. Off goes Dean Timms. That was contact with Sam Holman, and Gavin Johnson, Dan Blake and Freddie Hewitt all go through. Johnson sideways, Blake goes out wide, and Freddie Hewitt goes up the inside of both of them. He's ahead of Blake, he's ahead of Gavin Johnson, and Freddie Hewitt is bouncing back spectacularly in the start of race number 2 here. He is already 8th. 15 places gained in just over a lap for Freddie Hewitt, and the reigning champion in car number 1 critically is ahead of his big championship rival Dan Blake. Nick Veltenar is only just, where's Veltenar? He's 13th, so he did not make the progress that I expected. And, well, Freddie Hewitt driving like a man possessed here. So Ian Crosby leads the way. Daniel Hunt is second, except he's not. Crosby's just gone off. Ian Crosby has just spun from the race lead. So, having tipped him as a possible race winner, he's thrown it all away. Hunt leads the way now. Then Kevin McGlone in second. Pete Van Gool is third. Look at the gap between Daniel Hunt and Kevin McGlone. That's 2.5 seconds as he goes into the final corner on only the second lap of the race. There is McGlone, the grey and purple car, in second. The Momo car is Pete Van Gool in third, and he's got a good run out of the final corner. Carl Jacquelet runs wide in fourth position there. Fifth place is Ian Court, and Phil Reagan in sixth, with Freddie Hewitt catching them rapidly in seventh place. Dan Blake tagging along with him too. So McGlone runs out wide out of turn number one, but Pete Van Gool can't quite get up the inside. Nick Veltenaar, by the way, goes 11th on that lap with the fastest lap, 1 minute 3.57. So Veltenaar is starting now to approach the top 10. But I think that Daniel Hunt is going to be tough to beat in this one, because look at the gap that he's got over these two. It's up to 3.5 now. He's pulled another second in the last half a lap alone, because Kevin McGlone and Pete Van Gool are holding each other up. They're not as quick as Daniel Hunt anyway. And Daniel, there are always winners and losers from these random grids. And whilst maybe some of our championship contenders were big losers, Daniel Hunt is a big winner, and he has got himself out in the lead of the race. Further back, though, it's all getting very interesting. On board with Freddie Hewitt, he's caught this group of drivers now, and Freddie Hewitt closing in as they go through the final corner. Slithers out a bit wide, and there's contact in front, and that looked like that was Kevin McGlone and Carl Jacquelet. Carl Jacquelet is off the road with him. Now, how did those two get themselves together? Because there should have been a car or two between them. Cover that in a moment, though, because Freddie Hewitt is now fifth, make that fourth as he goes up the inside of Ian Court, who might just fight back, though, into the next hairpin. He's still alongside. Dan Blake is closing in as well, and probably thinking this has got disaster written all over it again. Hewitt goes through, but Dan Blake isn't able to. Now, though, you've got another one of the Year 1 racing cars, albeit in the Alpha Live livery just in front. That's Phil Reagan, who is in the sister team to that of Dan Blake. So he's not going to make life easy even. I'll put my teeth back in, shall I? He's not going to make life easy for Freddie Hewitt. And you can see the way he's defending into the hairpin. Runs a bit wide, though, coming through the apex. And Freddie Hewitt, as a result, gets a better exit. Ducks up the inside simultaneously. Look, Dan Blake is up the inside of Ian Court as well. So they could both be about to gain some places here, or one place at least. Hewitt going for third, remarkably, from 23rd and last on the grid. And in 4 laps, Freddie Hewitt has hit the podium. That has got to be something of a PDC Racing League record. Dan Blake did go through there into 5th place as well, although Ian Court is trying to fight back. And look who's catching them. Nick Veltenaar is closing in on these guys. There he is, look, with Gavin Johnson and Michael Seal behind. So that's 3 quick drivers, and also David Ward, 4 quick drivers then, all in a long line. 4 quick drivers from 3 different teams. You've got Year 1 Racing's Nick Veltenaar, PDC Racing's Gavin Johnson, and then 2 of the Team Cheetah Esports drivers of Michael Seal and David Ward. This Kidman, I can see, is falling down the timing screen slightly. He must have had an off somewhere, but we'll get back to that in a moment. Sam Holman, I think, involved too. And this is coming out of turn number 1 by the looks of it. And contact made. Off, unfortunately. Holman drops down to 16th, Kidman 17th. So they're still together, but a lot further down the order than they were. This Kidman, who was out at Lime Rock Park but didn't score any points, gets away with that, thankfully, without too much damage. There you can see just drops behind Cesare Rizzo is that now. Cesare Rizzo is a lap down. Not sure why, but Rizzo, again, lookless, it would seem. Incident on the first lap for Cesare Rizzo, I'm hearing from Graham, my producer, so that explains that. And he is sadly a lap down and not going to score points. Right, I can breathe now, I think. 5.5 laps into this second race. Daniel Hunt has a 3.3 second lead, but Pete Van Gool is lapping quicker than him by about 0.3 of a second, so we'll keep an eye to that gap. Freddie Hewitt, of course, is catching him as well. Freddie Hewitt just set the fastest lap, worth a bonus point, remember. 1 minute 2.75. He's a second and a half behind Pete Van Gool and 1.3 seconds ahead of Phil Reagan, who I'm a bit surprised hasn't moved over to let Dan Blake through here, because Dan Blake is all over him. They are, strictly speaking, competing for different teams, but obviously they're both Year 1 Racing drivers, and now Dan Blake does sweep up the inside into the final corner, and I think he's about to go into 4th place. It shouldn't be too long either before Nick Veltenaar follows him through. Phil Reagan runs around the outside. Phil is a quick driver himself, but Blake and Veltenaar seem to be the 2 quickest Year 1 Racing drivers here in this championship, and indeed he pulls out of the way of Nick Veltenaar as well. So good teamwork on display there from Year 1 Racing. And Blake goes 4th, Veltenaar 5th. But the trouble is they've lost 1 3/4 seconds already to Freddie Hewitt in front of them. The previous lap, by the way, Pete Van Gool in 2nd place was only 2 100ths quicker than Daniel Hunt. So the gap is still just over 3.5 seconds. But Freddie Hewitt considerably quicker than him. He did a 1 minute 2.98. So about 0.3 quicker than, no, 2/10, excuse me, than Pete Van Gool, who we're watching now in the Team Momo car. And Pete Van Gool, now that's interesting. That's Veltenar past Dan Blake. Now, has Dan decided that Veltenar is quicker and therefore he's the one that should lead the charge after Freddie Hewitt? If he has, that is very mature driving that from Dan Blake, because some drivers would be tempted to try and assert dominance over their teammate and say, no, I'm the number one driver, I'm going to lead. But if Veltenar is quicker, which he appears to be because he set the fastest lap last time, 1 minute 2.61, maybe that is better for the team on the whole to be able to challenge for a podium and maybe even a race win. We still have over half the race to go, remember. We are only 8 minutes into this 20-minute encounter, and let's see if that gap does start coming down. The starting point between Hewitt and Veltenar is just under 2 seconds, so if that starts to come down now, then that was a good move by Dan Blake. Sometimes, though, it does appear that the car behind is quicker simply because they have the slipstream, and that can make them look artificially a bit quicker than they are. But look at the way Veltenar is actually getting away from Blake, despite the fact that Blake has the toe. Although that won't particularly be helping him around the infield, I suppose. It's this final sector, the long drag down into turn 13, where you can sometimes benefit from the slipstream, and indeed he is. He's closing back in again now. Phil Reagan's still 6th, Gavin Johnson still 7th, with David Ward 8th now ahead of Michael Seal. There you can see those two in the background, the pink stripes for Ward, the yellow stripes for Seal. And Ian Crosby, by the way, still 10th. So Ian Crosby survived that spin, although a lot further back than he should be. There he is, look, coming out of the last corner. And Ian Crosby, is he catching those in front? Yes, he is, actually. They're all in the mid 1 minute 3s, and he's in the high 1 minute 2s. So Ian Crosby, actually one of the quickest drivers on the track, with the exception of Hewitt and Veltenar. They're the only two in the 1 minute 2 bracket that time around. Ian Crosby, the third of the drivers in the 1 minute 2s. But what a shame he had that spin. Right, this looks messy, doesn't it? Let's watch this for a while. That is number 31, Sam Holman, that we're following in the Fast Star Team G3 Esports car, and there's a contact, and that is, I'm afraid, not for the first time today. Dean Timms involved in contact, and was that... who was that? Was it Chris Kidman he tangled? No, it was going to be the 84 of Alex Hall. Who, well, avoidable is the word I'd use to describe that. I think that was just a little clumsy, really. And Dean Timms out of the race, and not really a great surprise there. Right, Daniel Hunt leading by 3.5 seconds, but look at Freddie Hewitt. He set the fastest lap. No, he didn't. Nick Veltenar nicks it straight back off him, but initially it was Hewitt with the fastest lap, a 1 minute 2.61, beaten by Veltenar now with a 1 minute 2.55, but Hewitt, whether he's got fastest lap or not, has caught Pete Van Gool, so if he gets past Van Gool quickly, there is maybe a chance that he could catch Daniel Hunt. He's about 3 or 4 tenths of a second a lap quicker than the race leader, but every corner that he spends stuck behind Pete Van Gool is going to be costing him time. To the hairpin they go, sees a gap on the inside, and, well, Freddie's clearly not been put off from making those lunges after his incident in race 1, has he? He was quite happy to send it up the inside, but Pete Van Gool fighting back now. Van Gool looking for his first podium in the PDC Racing League. In fact, I think I'm right in saying his first top 5. Yes, it is. He's not been in the top 5 yet in PDC Racing, so he will probably be quite happy to settle into third, given the fact they're a second and a half ahead of Veltenar, but Veltenar is coming, and Dan Blake is now more or less matching him within a tenth or so. So Hewitt then goes second. Now, dropped scores that I mentioned in the previous race. I said that you still drop one race. That wasn't strictly true. You actually drop one event. So there are 6 races in Season 3 of the PDC Racing League, split across 3 events, and you have to drop 1 full night of racing. So 2 races that you drop, but they both have to have taken place on the same night. So Freddie Hewitt had a really bad result in race 1. In a way, therefore, it doesn't really matter what he does in race 2, because he might have to drop tonight anyway. If this ends up being his worst scoring round, if you like, of the season, then he could win this race with fastest lap and still have to drop it. So, in a way, if I were Freddie Hewitt, I would be running around at the back here so that I'm dropping fewer points. But of course, the chance you're taking then is that you don't have another shocker at Silverstone in a week's time, because if you then have 2 races where you don't score any points, then you've completely messed up, basically. So it's a bit of a risk to take. So Freddie's clearly of the opinion that, okay, he didn't score any points in race 1, but if he can win this race and take the maximum 35 points, maybe 36 if he can get that fastest lap back off Nick Veltenar, who's just gone quicker again, by the way, 1 minute 2.37. But Hewitt has clearly decided he wants the points in the bag now, and if he has to drop them after, then so be it. But there is some logic that says here, if you trust yourself not to get it wrong at Silverstone, then actually scoring 0 points tonight could be better, because then you're dropping less next time out, if you follow me. It makes sense in my head, trust me. Thankfully, that's not the attitude that these guys have got. They want the points, and that's good, because it means it's entertaining to watch. Nick Veltenar goes third there at the inside of Pete Van Gool. And incidentally, Freddie Hewitt on the previous lap was a full half a second quicker than Daniel Hunt, and on this lap he's going quicker again. The gap's going to be down closer to 3 seconds now between the top two, and it was a good lap for Hunt as well. It was just a personal best for Hewitt, and of course Veltenar another 10.5 quicker, so car in third is quicker than the car in second, and they're both quicker than the car in first, which with just over a quarter of the race still to go, we've got about 7 minutes to go, in fact, so about a third of the way still to go, is setting us up quite nicely for another of those PDC racing frenetic finishes that we've been so treated by in the earlier races and earlier seasons, indeed, of the PDC Racing League. Daniel Hunt leads 2.6 seconds now is the margin, so it came down by another 2.5 tenths that time, but Hunt, in fairness, has responded. He just set a personal best lap of a 1 minute 2.86, and quite a few drivers getting quicker actually as the race goes on, about 5 or 6 of them dropping into the 1 minute 2s that time around. There you can see the gaps. That's quite a good shot actually of the gaps between the top half dozen cars or so. The biggest of those gaps is still the lead gap, but it is coming down again on this lap. Let's see what the lap times are then. Daniel Hunt comes out of the final corner, uses all of the curb and then a little bit more. Much neater for Hewitt in second place. It's a 1 minute 2.89 for Hunt, another good lap, but not as quick as Hewitt. A 1 minute 2.41 is nearly half a second quicker again. So Hewitt seems to have, on average, let's call it 4 tenths of a second a lap on Hunt, and he is 2.3 seconds back. So at that rate, within another 3 laps or so, he'll be within slipstream range, and then the last second tends to disappear quite quickly, partly because the car behind has the tow, and partly because the car in front is very much aware that the car is catching them, and that can sometimes lead to them pushing and making a few too many mistakes. So Daniel Hunt, though, to his credit, is decent driver, as we saw in the first race. Not made that many mistakes yet. Ian Crosby, sadly, you can't say the same of. He did make that mistake in the early stages of this one, but he's doing well fighting back here. He's closed in now on Michael Seal. And sorry, no, that is, yes, it is Michael Seal, who Ian is trying to pass for 9th position. Then David Ward is about a second or so further up the road. You can see him there. Ian Crosby through the final corner. I'm just trying to see if there was any damage on the front wing of Ian Crosby's car. No, it's okay. So I don't think he hit anything when he went off, but obviously a full 360 spin fell well outside the top 10. Only got 17 cars still circulating on the lead lap after another slightly chaotic start to the race. There is Daniel Hunt, and look at the way Hewitt is catching on the previous lap. He took over half a second, actually. Daniel Hunt a 1 minute 3.0. Hewitt a 1 minute 2.4. So another 6, nearly 7 tenths taken out of the race lead. And Freddie Hewitt's going to be there within a couple of laps. Freddie, incidentally, is 1.6 seconds clear of Nick Veltenar, who matched him on the previous lap. So Veltenar's no longer catching Hewitt. And Blake, now, also, is not catching Pete Van Gool. So, in fairness, Blake, he's going to score more points tonight than he did at Lime Rock. But he's dropping back from... He's dropped back again now. I believe he's just made a mistake, I'm hearing. So, Dan Blake, despite pushing on to try and catch Pete Van Gool, he's actually going the other way now. The good news is Blake has got 3.5 seconds in hand over his semi-teammate Phil Reagan behind him. Hewitt takes another 3 tenths out of Hunt that time, so the gap's 1.5 seconds now, and we're on board with Hewitt. You can see the way he's catching almost by the corner now. He's not going to have that much time, though, to actually overtake Hunt, is he? Because we are about 16.5 minutes or so through the race now, so he's got less than 5 minutes to go. Less than 4 minutes to go, in fact. He's not going to arrive on the gearbox of Hunt for another couple of laps at least, so actually, it's going to be pretty tight, this. I'm kind of building up here to Freddie Hewitt winning the race. I'm not convinced he will. Look at Hunt there, driving down the right-hand side of the road to try and break the draft, but I don't think Freddie Hewitt's quite close enough to get it yet. 1.3 seconds back, needs to be within about a second or so of the car in front, but it closes as he goes into the final corner. because Hewitt carried a lot more speed into it. Loses a bit through the centre. Top 3 cars then come across the start-finish line. 1.2 seconds between Hunt and Hewitt. Daniel Hunt just did a personal best, 1 minute 2.8. He's still 4/10 slower than Hewitt, but he is getting quicker as the race goes on. The quickest of the leading 3 that time was Veltnar. He was a 10th quicker than Hewitt, but he's 1.4 back. The trouble is, I think, like I say, because Hewitt's only going to get to Hunt right at the end of the race, I don't think they're going to really have enough time to battle that it would allow Veltnar to close in. But actually, the way that Veltnar's season's gone so far, he might be quite happy just to see the checkered flag on the podium. He's still looking for his first podium of the year, is Nick Veltnar. But in fact, he's had race-winning pace on more than one occasion. So, down into the final corner then. This time, Freddie Hewitt is within slipstreaming range because he's only 7/10 back. This is what I said. Once you get within a second and you get that toe, the last second tends to disappear quite quickly, but there are only a couple of minutes left on the clock. The lead gap as they cross the start-finish line is 0.6 of a second now. Then 17 laps are completed, and Freddie Hewitt is almost there. Nick Veltnar does the fastest lap. What a time to bang that in as well. 1 minute 2.35. He's 1.3 seconds back of Hewitt, but if they do start holding each other up, he could be with them in a flash. This could yet become a 3-way fight for the win. And don't forget, it was Hewitt and Veltnar who tangled in race 1, and it was arguably, you'd have to say, Hewitt that was the instigator there, so Veltnar might have a score to settle here. Up the hill they go. These 3 are 2.5 seconds clear of anyone else, so you'd have to say it's likely to be one of these 3 that would win, but after what happened in race 1, I'm not going to give this one to anyone yet. Out of the penultimate corner they go. Now, is this next lap going to be the final one? It's going to be very, very tight. We're going to have about a minute left on the clock, I think, and they're lapping in the 1 minute 2s, 1 minute 3s. Well, let's see. It could be critical, this, because Hewitt has caught Daniel Hunt. If he's only got 1 lap left to do it, then he's going to have to really, really seize the advantage. Hunt runs a bit wide out of the final corner and immediately pulls to the right-hand side of the road to defend. Hewitt goes to the outside line. Will he try and go right round the outside? Yes, he will. Freddie Hewitt sends it into turn 1. Can he go right round the outside and get the inside for the next hairpin? The answer is yes, I think. Can Daniel Hunt turn in? No, he can't. Freddie Hewitt's over the curb. Into the next braking zone they go. And the number 1 car is back in position, number 1. Freddie Hewitt goes through. Runs a bit wide. Daniel Hunt tries to get back up the inside and he cannot do it. And look at the way Veltnar's closing. He's less than a second behind them now. Nick Veltnar needs 1 more lap and he could be in contention for the victory. I'm not convinced he's going to get that 1 more lap though. Into the hairpin. Hewitt defends the inside. He knew that Daniel Hunt was going to try and get through on the inside line there. So he covered it off nice and early. Comes off the corner well too. Daniel Hunt is in the slipstream down to the final corner. We believe the checkered flag will be waiting for them. It's going to be another super close finish here. Freddie Hewitt leads into the last turn. Daniel Hunt is right behind him. The checkered flag is being readied. Hewitt sends it into the final corner, and I think he's going to hang on. Freddie Hewitt will become the first double winner of the season. Brilliant racing from the very back of the grid. Freddie Hewitt wins round number 4 of the PDC Racing League, and there can be no arguing that one. Not a hint of contact. Beautifully clean racing, and he takes the victory. Daniel Hunt in second. Nick Veltnar in third place at long last gets that podium. Pete Van Gool in 4th. Dan Blake in 5th position. And that was a good drive from Dan, to be fair, as well, because he started towards the back of the grid too. Phil Reagan is 6th. Gavin Johnson 7th. David Ward 8th. Michael Seal 9th. And Ian Crosby rounding out the top 10. But what a perfectly judged race that was for Freddie Hewitt. He started 23rd and last for that race as a result of the random grid, having not scored any points at all in race 1. And he worked his way. He got into the top 3 by the end of lap 2. I mean, that was astonishing stuff from Freddie. And he just got to Daniel Hunt in time. Had the race been 1 lap shorter, though, Hunt would have got his first victory. He and Veltnar, though, both get their first ever podiums in the PDC Racing League. So some real feel-good stories there. And, well, points-wise for Hewitt, let's have a look. I think this will be his drop at the moment, though. Yeah, because Hewitt scored... Oh, yeah, he scored 73 points, didn't he, from Lime Rock, and only what's going to be about 40-odd from Tsukuba. So this will, at the moment, be his drop score. So in a way, that victory is kind of irrelevant points-wise, but it will still, of course, be a nice feeling to get the win. Now, we're going to get another Team Cheetah esports photo. No, we're not. They're just sort of parading their way into the pit lane. Not quite the all 4 cars in the top 6 result that they had at Lime Rock last time. But where did they end up? You've got, obviously, Hewitt got the win. David Ward was 8th. Michael Seal was 9th. And Sam Holman was 12th. So they're all in the top dozen, which isn't bad going. But they are led home by Freddie Hewitt for the second time this season after he took that controversial win in race number 1 at Lime Rock from pole position. This one, though, significantly less controversial. So, replay here at the start from Freddie, and this is going to be like one of those video games where you've turned the AI down to 0 difficulty, isn't it? He just sort of picks his way through the early drama. There were obviously a few collisions at the start of the race, but actually, Freddie, he still pulled off some nice moves. And it's one thing it's very easy to say, he was way quicker than the cars in front of him and they all went off the road, but you've still got to get your way through that. I mean, we saw in race 1 with poor old Cesare Rizzo, didn't we, that he was running around in 3rd place on that last lap, minding his own business, and then got wiped out in someone else's crash in front because he just couldn't avoid them. So you're still in peril when you're in Freddie Hewitt's position, for example, and you're sort of having to work your way past people from the back of the field. But this is an incredible first lap we're witnessing here. Look at that carnage through turn 1. There's a car upside down, car on the grass. That's Dan Blake, of course, up in front of us. And Blake tried to pull that move up the inside of Gavin Johnson and one of the other Team Cheetah Esports cars. That didn't work. Oh, and Johnson, that's what happened with Dean Timms, wasn't it? Was it Dean Timms? Well, got hit by, Michael Seal, and then Gavin Johnson had a bit of a moment coming out of the corner. That's what held up Dan Blake, and that is why Hewitt was able to come through. And that was maybe the most important overtake, actually, because getting past Dan Blake was key, and also getting a car between himself and Dan Blake, albeit temporarily, was also really important. And it worked very nicely for Freddie Hewitt. So we will, I think, now have a chance then to hear from our double race winner in season 2, Freddie Hewitt. Well, Freddie, you don't make life easy for yourself, do you? You were on the cusp of winning race 1 and had that contact with Nick. Started stone dead last for race 2, but you were 3rd by the end of lap 2. How did you do it?
Well, I've always had a thing for going around the outside at turn 1 on when I start at the back, so it's worked in my favour again.
You are far too relaxed about that. We've just watched that opening lap on board with you. We just showed a replay at the end of the race, and it was all kicking off around you. And it's actually quite a skill to be able to sort of weave your way past cars that are upside down and spinning on the grass and banging into each other. You can so easily get taken out in someone else's crash.
Yeah, it's very easy to get caught up. But my dad always told me to not look directly in front of you, but look around the corner as well, and try and see what's coming up and see what you can see in front of you. So I followed that, and it seemed to work in my favour.
At what point then did you start to think, actually, maybe I can win this? Because you got into 3rd place, and then you had to catch Pete, which you did pretty quickly. But even once you got past him, you were about 3.5 seconds off the lead. Did you think at that point it was doable?
I didn't. No, I didn't think it was doable. I thought that Dan had run away with it. But then, as I kept watching the time sort of tumble in, I was starting to get my hopes up a little bit, and it was close.
Very close. I mean, if the race had been 1 lap shorter, you probably wouldn't quite have got to him. As it happened, you did. Now, we've got to touch upon what happened in race 1, because it was a great battle between you and Nick, right up until that penultimate lap into turn 1. What happened from your point of view?
My point of view is I was, following Nick for 7 minutes or however long it was, and I'd noticed that he kept going wide in and tight out at turn 1. So I thought, right, well, I'm going to try and catch him out on the wide in and get on the inside before he goes to tight out, and then I've sort of determined my position then. And I saw he locked up going in. I saw the smoke, so I thought, right, this is my moment, this is my opportunity, and sadly it just didn't work out. I just caught his rear wheel. By the time I saw him coming in, it was too late for me to back out. But I've said my apologies to Nick, and I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, isn't it? Because, I mean, you didn't benefit from it either, of course, neither did he. It has had an effect on your points haul, but because of these slightly sort of strange drop score rules now in season 3, you drop a whole event, essentially, don't you? So you can kind of forget tonight ever happened, which, as far as race 1 goes, is a good thing. But I suppose you'd rather not forget that the race win just happened in race 2.
I think race 2 has probably been one of my best races in this series so far. As I'm not a fan of the random grids, because you just never know where you're going to be brought out. But it's fun to overtake some people and have some close racing.
Yes, I'm sure you must have. When you saw you and Nick had both been drawn on the back row of the grid, I would love to have had a penny for your thoughts in that moment.
I was peering, trying to look for the Grello, shall we call them, Grello year 1 cars, and then I saw him load up next to me, and I was like, perfect. This is at least we're taking the penalty together. So
No, exactly. Well, it provided us with lots of entertainment, and I don't know what that does to the points now, but it's going to be pretty close, I think, still between you and Dan. So what are your thoughts for Silverstone next time out? It's an older version of Silverstone to race on as well. Are you a fan of the classic Silverstone layout?
Well, I think this is a layout that the track's based on when I was 5, so I've never really driven it. So I'm gonna definitely be on here quite a bit to try and see. But I'm really up for the challenge, because obviously there are bits that you recognise from the layout I know. But it's going to be fun, because I've never driven it before, so I'm looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you there as well. Best of luck for Silverstone, and congratulations on an incredible drive through from 23rd on the grid to the victory for Freddie Hewitt. Well done on the win.
Cheers, thank you.
Freddie Hewitt, then your championship leader, your reigning champion. He was the championship leader coming into tonight. Whether or not he still is, I'm not too sure. If you want to find out what the point situation is like, head over to the PDC Racing website, where you can not only find information on the PDC Racing League, but also on the PDC Racing team, because they've got a pretty active second half of 2020 coming up, and they will, I'm sure, be grateful of the support. So head over to their website, find them on the social media pages as well. Right, we've got time, I think, for one more interview, not from a podium finisher this time around, but from a pretty familiar name here at Year 1 Racing. Carl Jacquelet was out there racing tonight, and well, Carl, maybe not the 2 results that you were hoping for, but have you enjoyed your pair of races tonight?
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Really, really great. Thank you, Andy.
It's busy out there, isn't it? It's a competitive grid, and around a track like this, there's not really room for everyone.
Well, race 1 was quite interesting, because I dropped it first lap all on my own, dropped to 20th, and got back for a podium. So you can overtake on this track. Was really looking forward to race 2, but unfortunately, guy in front of me just dropped it, and I couldn't quite miss him.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, but very easy to do, I suppose. Especially in these cars, once you lock wheels with somebody else, that's kind of game over, isn't it? Really, is it a car that you've got a lot of experience racing?
Yeah, I race this one a lot. I absolutely love it. It's the best car in the sim by far.
It produces really good racing, but it's still got that little bit of downforce, hasn't it? But of course, grooved tyres, so there's not a lot of mechanical grip, so they look like quite a handful.
They are a handful. My motorsport of choice is auto testing, so I'm used to sliding things around a lot. Maybe that's why I'm reasonably quick in this thing.
Yeah, you rarely seem to be going fully in a straight line, I must say, and that kind of makes sense now. Are you back out again for Silverstone next week? And if so, is that a version of Silverstone that you've got much experience of?
Yeah, absolutely. Love Silverstone. I'll be there. I think I put it on pole there last time we raced on this track.
No pressure then.
None at all.
Well, there you go. Then you heard it here first. Carl Jacquelet on pole position next week at Silverstone. Well, congratulations on the podium in race 1. Commiserations for what happened in race 2, but hopefully we see you back on the podium next time.
Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? See what I can do.
Good stuff. Carl Jacquelet, then, thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, podium finish in that first race. I'd forgotten in all of the carnage in race 2 that Carl did make it into the top 3 in the first one. Well, there you have it then, everyone. The PDC Racing League, it never fails to deliver, does it? I mean, we had a bit of everything tonight. That first race battle between Freddie Hewitt and Nick Veltenar, it looked as though Veltenar was at least on for his first podium. Contact at the end took them both out of the points, and Dan Blake, from nowhere, came through to take the victory. And then in race number 2, Freddie Hewitt, a man on a mission. 23rd on the grid to 3rd by the end of lap 2. He took 2nd from Pete Van Gool towards the end, got the win on the final lap with a brilliant duel between himself and Daniel Hunt, who came home 2nd, and Nick Veltenar 3rd, finally got that first podium. Well, we will be back same time next week, same place, in that you can watch the racing here on Year One Racing TV, but a different circuit, a very different circuit. We're back on British shores, and we're going back in time. We're going to the Silverstone historic layout, which is not the full historic layout. We're not going back to the 1960s, but it is the pre-arena layout. So essentially, instead of turning right at Abbey, where the wing now is, you go left through the chicane and then down into that brilliant sequence of corners through Bridge, Priory, Brooklands. It's a great version of the Silverstone circuit. Big, wide open spaces, lots of slipstreaming, and a championship battle that will be decided, because they are the final 2 races of this 3rd season of what has been a really entertaining PDC Racing League. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here at Year One Racing TV. It's been a pleasure having you. Thanks to Graham as well, the producer at Year One, for putting together a fantastic show, as always, battling his way through a few technical gremlins between the races too. Thanks to all the drivers that have come and had a chat with us as well. Big congratulations to Dan Blake and Freddie Hewitt. That rivalry continues. The 2 reigning champions that we put head-to-head coming into the night after their little skirmish that they had a week ago. And they are the 2 race winners from the 2 races at Tsukuba as well. Will one of those 2 be the champion in a week's time at Silverstone, or will someone else sweep in to pick up the pieces? Well, be sure to join us here at Year One Racing TV at just before 8 p.m. UK time next Wednesday night to find out. Until then, though, from myself, Andy McEwen, and Graham Sessford, here it is a good night from us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.